Hey guys, welcome back. My name's LT and today we're going to be doing things just a little bit different than usual. I don't have any projects planned, I'm not going to be working on anything in this upload, but instead we're going to be going over some of the plans that we have for 2021. Basically just to set the stage and let you guys know what to expect in the coming year. And also it's a good way for me to be held accountable. You guys will help me be accountable for the goals that we're going to set today. I'm going to go over some of the project vehicles that you've seen on the channel, kind of outline the path that you can expect to see those go. And I'm going to give you an overview of the shop space that we're in now, and we'll talk about some goals in terms of upgrading the shop space. Now, usually on this channel, we build custom and high performance trucks, and that's not going to change. So if those things interest you, help me out, hit that subscribe button, because one of our first goals that I've already laid out, by the end of this year, we want to reach 100,000 subscribers. So let's get to it. The very first thing that I wanted to do is just kind of give you guys a tour of the shop space that we're working with. Now, I call it a shop, but technically this is just a garage. This is just the garage that's attached to my house. And it has kind of a unique shape, and actually when we were looking for a house, this is one of the reasons why we picked this one, is because of the space that it has. It's kind of an L shape. That's the back area down there. That's about, it's about 10 feet wide by about 20 feet deep from the corner kind of all the way back. And then this section here, this is about 20 feet square. So the total depth from the back corner all the way down is about 40 feet. Square footage wise, of course, you kind of always wish you had a little bit more room to work in. But the nice thing about this is I can fit any of my trucks inside. So between the door there, and even if I have to go a little bit further up, like with the AT4, I can get any truck that I have inside. The garage door is tall enough, and it's got some pretty high ceilings, so if I want to raise the truck up in the air a little bit to work on it, no problem there. Now, I could put two vehicles in here actually, but I kind of use this corner. You kind of see the line on the floor down the middle. This half is basically just storage. We've got our extra fridge out here, you know, the MIG welder, we've got the quads, we've got this useless chunk of iron that is waiting to get picked up and sent back. Speaking of quads, every now and then you guys will kind of pick that out. I used to ride all the time when I was a kid. So 2 years ago I bought this guy. It's a Honda 700XX. It's a 2008, I believe. This thing is fun. It's got a load of power. I just really never get the chance to ride it. So anyway, it's just sitting in storage. My son has his little quad down there. That's like a 110cc, one of those Chinese import quads. But we love to go riding together. Anyway, so that's kind of what this corner is down here. It's just basically storage. Over on this side, this is basically where the truck is always going to be when I'm working on it, whether that's ugly truck, the Suburban, the AT4. This is kind of the space that we have. And if I park at a little bit of an angle, I kind of pulled in straight this time, but if I park at a little bit of an angle, the AT4 will fit in between the back door over there. I'll have maybe 6 inches between the bumper and the door, and then I can get the front end just a little bit in here. That way I can do oil changes or work on it or do whatever I need to do. I try to keep this wall a little bit empty. I've got a few things I store down there because a lot of times when I'm working on like this truck long term doing fab work, I'll get it shifted over as far as possible to the wall. Now, most of the work that I actually do in here happens in this smaller part, the little 10 by 20 foot section. I usually will start and I'll have the vehicle kind of nosed in, so I get an easy path to walk between whatever I'm working on and the workspace here. And a lot of times I'm working at this little, it's not even a workbench, that's actually a welding table. And speaking of the welding table, a lot of you guys have asked me what brand it is, where I got it, what size it is, and stuff like that. I picked it up from weldtables.com. I'm pretty sure that was the website a couple years ago. This was probably in like 2017 or 2018. It's the 2x3 foot model, and it's one of those tab and slot, you weld it together tables. It comes flat, and you could weld it together. It has all these 5/8 inch holes that are in the top, and this is for those special welding clamps that you can use to, you know, clamp something down or use to align or make a fixture. Underneath the surface, it's got all these little reinforcement beams, and it's a really sturdy, really heavy duty table. You could probably park a car on it. I went ahead and put this little 2x4 shelf kind of down there on the bottom to store the welder, which is admittedly not the best place because it does get a lot of shavings and, you know, drill shavings and grinding dust and stuff like that on it, but it does help me save a little bit of space. From there, most of my other equipment is just kind of back here, and there's not a lot of it because I do have to be very conscious about the things that I put in here, because space is at a premium. One of my next goals is to build some kind of a work table, because I want something a little bit bigger than that. And I might build one from metal, maybe from wood. I'm not entirely sure, but I want something about maybe 4 by 8 feet to sit right there. I can, better manage all my storage. I'll get a spot where I can actually properly secure my welding bottle to the wall or to the table or something like that. Back here I've got a few things. I've got the shop press, which I use every now and again, the transmission jack, because right now I don't have a lift. I am working on the floor. Get a cherry picker, mostly storage. I've got my 2 toolboxes over there. Those are kind of overflowing. I really ought to upgrade those as well with something maybe a little bit larger. But that's kind of the layout of the shop. That's where I work. I did have to put in a 220 plug, and right now that goes up to my little electric furnace, which at least takes the edge off, at least keeps it kind of warm in here. In terms of other things that I need to get, the list goes on and on. Eventually I need a lift, I need an air compressor. I've got a plasma cutter I've never used because I don't have an air compressor yet. Bigger tool storage, more shelving. I'd love to have a lot more room to store parts and stuff, because right now all that ends up in my basement. And I got a couple extra tire sets down there, and that's a pain in the butt to carry a set of big truck tires down some basement stairs and back up again whenever you want to swap them out. So that's the space that we're in right now. So we'll talk about the future goals for the shop in just a little bit, but next we're going to talk about some of the project vehicles and what you can see in this year coming up. So this is the 99 K2500 Suburban, and you guys probably haven't seen a whole lot of this truck lately. I picked it up back in October, and I've done a few things on it. But this is the project that you're going to see most kind of coming up in the near short-term future. So far, I got rid of the 16-inch Dodge wheels that were on it when I first bought it for some reason, no idea, and replaced it with some stock PYOs from a 2500 HD. I added a lower air valance because apparently the 2500 trucks didn't come with any valance. Let's see, ditched the factory running boards just to kind of clean up the look. One of the things that I'm going to take care of is the stance. The rear axle is it's like 3.5 inches narrower out back than it is on the front, and I hate how it looks, so I'm going to take care of that. On the inside, we've done a few things already. The major part was I ditched the split bench seat that had the flip-up console, put some cloth buckets in. I ordered a floor console. That'll be here shortly, and I'll show you guys installing that, because it's going to be a little bit different than what you might be expecting. Added a full-length ceiling console. I got rid of the NP246 auto track and replaced it with a 241 manual shift transfer case. The 246 shift buttons used to be there. I've got videos on all this stuff, by the way. Also, I want to upgrade the instrument cluster to one of the Escalade 120 mile per hour instrument clusters. So anyway, that's kind of the inside, but most of the changes that I want to make on this truck are actually under the hood, and you probably guessed it, we're going to be adding more power. The Suburban is powered by a big block. It's an L29 454. I believe this one is rated at 290 horsepower, so it's kind of gutless, but the plan is to extract a lot more power from it. And to do that, the first thing we're going to do is get rid of the black box PCM and install an 0411. The reason you do that, the black box is kind of antiquated in terms of its computing power. HP Tuners does support it, but the computer itself is just very limited in terms of what it can handle. So rather than trying to mess around with that, we're going to start right away. That'll be one of the next things you see on the Suburban. We're going to swap to an 0411. The 0411 was found in a lot of LS powered vehicles. It's got a much faster processor. All the popular tuning softwares will work with it, and you can use an operating system from an L31 Express to work with, the small block 350s or the 454s, the old school engines. Now, to get more power out of this, we're going to have to install a few hard parts as well. We're going to do a cam upgrade. I'm going to do some long tube headers, full exhaust, valve springs, just kind of the basic stuff. I don't really want to dive into the bottom end just yet. But, they kind of say the old thing, there's no replacement for displacement. So we're going to try that out. I know the LS guys will probably argue with that, but that's all right. We're going big block on this truck, but there's one more thing I'm going to try, or I am going to do, and you're not going to want to miss it. Okay, so Chevy made an Avalanche in the early 2000s, or early to mid to late 2000s, and the Avalanche was actually based on a Suburban chassis. Same wheelbase, same door layout, except it had the little back section cut off, and it had a window back there and like a tonneau cover, and it folded down, of course, onto the inside. I am going to make an OBS avalanche, and basically the plan is going to be take a crew cab Chevy truck and take the roof and the back of the cab and kind of graft it in there. And then I'm going to have to go find a truck bed and grab the top of the rails and the tailgate and some other pieces in there. And I'm going to try to make an OBS avalanche. I'm going to call it the Suburbalanche. Now, like I said, that'll probably happen a little bit later on this year. The first thing I'm going to do is definitely the powertrain upgrades, and I'm going to do something to address the stance on the back axle because of how narrow it is. But the Suburbalanche, you're not going to want to miss it. To steal the phrase coined by Greg A, this is the wife wagon, and you're probably not going to see much about this at all. But the other project truck we have on the channel is the 2020 AT4 HD. I picked this thing up new, and it's a really, really nice truck, and I've done a few odds and ends to it, but for the most part it's stock. It's leveled up 2.5 inches. It's got some 35, 12, 50, 20 ridge grapplers, and it's sitting on a bronze method race wheel. It's got the Cognito leveling kit with the upper control arms. Rides really smooth, rides just like stock. I did delete the running boards. I put on the half-ton tow mirrors. And for the most part, that's kind of all I've done. And I do have a few ideas of stuff I'd like to do to the truck. I'd like to tune it, but that's obviously very expensive in the L5P, and it still is under warranty, so I might not do a whole lot with this truck just yet. But when I do, I want to increase the power by a lot, but also the 10-speed transmissions, we might need to address that as well. That might be like late this year or early 2022, but you know, you will see the truck every now and again just hauling a trailer, especially since like next week we're going to be going up to Idaho to dyno the ugly truck. So just keep an eye out for that truck. But speaking of ugly truck, let's talk about what's next for that. Now, every channel kind of has its signature vehicle, and I guess you could say this is mine, and it's not going anywhere anytime soon. It's 2000 Silverado. I call it ugly truck because, I mean, well, just look at it. And it started out early in 2020, 100% bone stock. 342 open differential 10 bolt, 4L60 transmission, and a 5.3 LM7 under the hood. So far, we've changed just about all that. The 8.1 swap, obviously you guys know about that. That's kind of what this truck is most known for. It's turbocharged. We got a big S480 on there. We did a 4L80 swap, and then we re-geared the 10 bolt, and we added a True Track. It's got 430s in there now. And that's kind of the outline of the drivetrain. Now, I did tell you guys some time ago that my final goal in terms of horsepower is 1,000 at the wheels. And we're obviously not going to make that on a stock bottom end. I believe if we go to the dyno next week, we'll find out exactly how much it's making. I don't have high hopes, but oh, by the way, drop your comments down below about what you think this truck will make on the chassis dyno at about 5 pounds of boost. Anyway, oh yeah, long-term goals for this truck. 1,000 horsepower is the goal, and we're going to have to build the motor to get there. A lot of you guys have asked in the comments and stuff, what if I open up the ring gaps on the pistons? Would I do that and see how much the stock pistons would hold with a proper ring gap? I'd honestly love to, guys, but that's a lot of work. That's a lot of time to take the engine out of the truck, completely disassemble it, just to open up the ring gaps. And yes, in theory, any engine will hold a little bit more power if the rings, you know, don't butt together under boost like what will happen with a lot of engines. But then I'm still going to have to build the motor, because even if I open up the ring gaps, I doubt the stock bottom end is going to hold up to 1,000 horsepower. The 8.1, it definitely isn't supported on the aftermarket the same way that the LS engines are. So parts are a little bit harder to come by, but I'm going to try to put some Raylar parts on there, you know, different cylinder heads, connecting rods, pistons, maybe different crankshaft, definitely a camshaft. And we're going to try to make this thing hold up to 1,000 horsepower. I've got everything that I've built so far in theory should support it. We've got enough turbocharger, you know, we've definitely got enough injector. In terms of fuel pump, I might need to install a second fuel pump, and transmission, I guess, even though it is a 4L80, I'll probably have to do some upgrades in there as well. But that's kind of the goal for the drivetrain by the end of this year. I want the 8.1 fully built, putting out 1,000 horses at the wheels. Now, in terms of the rest of the truck, I'm not going to change anything really in terms of appearance, maybe the odd wheel and tire change, but I like how the body looks. But suspension, that's one spot that we do need to upgrade. Right now it's sitting with a 2.4 drop. It's got shackles and hangers out back and just a drop spindle up front. But it wheel hops like crazy, so I'm going to have to do something to address that. And I also mentioned a couple times that we're going to be taking this thing down to Arizona in April for its first official race, or sanctioned race, I guess, if you will. And I'm going to have to do a couple different suspension upgrades for it to, I'm not going to say compete, because it's definitely not going to compete with the caliber of trucks that are there. but I'm going to change some things in the suspension to make it a little better suited to that particular type of venue. And most of the parts are right down there under the 700. So you guys can probably put 2 and 2 together and figure out what we're going to go do with this truck. But on top of that, in 2020, I do want to take it to the drag strip as well, just whether we have an 1/8 mile or a 1/4 mile. There's not a lot of drag strips around where I live, but we definitely are going to try to get some times on this truck before I tear it apart. So we'll get some dyno numbers, we'll get some 1/4 mile, maybe 1/8 mile times, I don't know, just to see where it sits. Then we'll tear it apart and we'll build it. So that's kind of the outline of all the project trucks and what you can expect on this channel. I do actually have 1 or 2 customer builds already lined up, which I'm going to squeeze kind of in between some of the stuff that I'm doing for myself. But speaking of customer builds, let's talk shop. I keep referring to this year as 2020 still because I guess my brain hasn't quite reset to 2021. And maybe that's still part of the curse of 2020, but 2021 is the year that we're gonna be open for business. It's been a long-term goal of mine for many years. And in fact, part of the reason why I left my last job was to open up shop and start my own, well, speed shop. And this is the year that we're gonna make it happen. Now, I've really enjoyed making videos and documenting this process of building my own trucks, and that's not going to stop. I'm still going to upload at least twice a week, and I'm still going to be building my own stuff because, I mean, you got to have some kind of fun in this life, right? But we're also going to be showing you some of the client builds that we're going to be taking on, and we'll also show you the whole process of finding a building, you know, moving in, renovating if we have to do that. And, you know, ultimately, by the end of this year, maybe I'll have to be able to hire an employee or 2 to help out, whether it's making videos or actually building the vehicles in the shop. Now, like I said, we're probably 4 to 6 months away at this point, but my first client build, we're actually going to start in this little home garage right here. In late February, I got a cool project that's going to be dropped off, and I think you guys will really enjoy it because, again, I'm going to show you every step along the way. Now, the name of this whole venture or this brand is going to be Tolman Performance Engineering. I've made up a couple of t-shirts, a couple of logos, and this is kind of medieval looking, but this actually is the Tolman family crest, and we've had it updated. You know, it's holding a wrench up here instead of like a knife or whatever it was holding. It's got an engine, couple of pistons. These are injectors. That's kind of hard to see. But it's just kind of a cool gearhead related crest. And I've always liked the old, you know, I've liked the family crest, and it means a lot to me. You know, it's kind of like heritage. It helps me remember where I came from. So along those same lines, we're going to be launching a merchandise brand, you know, Tolman Performance brand. We'll have t-shirts and hoodies and hats and all the good stuff that all the YouTubers have to have. And I will let you guys know whenever we're at that stage. We still got a few tweaks and a few things we got to take care of before we're ready to officially launch it, but we're going to have all the regular merchandise. Also, giveaways. I've had 1 or 2 people ask about giveaways, and you know, I've kind of thrown around the idea, and I'd like to give away something cool. It'd be nice to give away a vehicle, and we'll see how things go. I'm not going to make any promises just yet. Because I really don't want to be a giveaway channel. I know there's a lot out there that's all they do. They'll build a vehicle, give it away, build a vehicle, give it away. And it's cool content, but you know, I really prefer the tech heavy stuff. I like diving in, I like building stuff, I like fabrication, and I like high performance stuff. And that's really, it always has been, it's going to continue to be to the core of this channel. So 2020 is behind us. 2021 is ahead of us. We've got a lot of goals to meet, and with your help, we're going to do it. So like this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and come on guys, it's going to be a great year. Thanks for watching.